Hi, it's Mr. Tosh over at Global, and this is a screencast about how to use a Google form. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at setting up the Google form for the Unit 2 homework for exploring computer science. We're going to use a Google form to collect our month's worth of travel data. And setting it up may take a few minutes, but the collection of the data over the course of the month will be a lot more convenient. This is phone friendly, it works beautifully. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up a Google form. You want to open up your Gmail, which I've shown you here. This is my Gmail. And what you're going to do is go up here to the upper right-hand corner to this tray where it's got a bunch of the other related Google apps. I'm going to click on our Google Drive. Google Forms is not in there. You do have to wait a second for your Google Drive to pop up, but once you do, you'll realize that, wait, there's not an option for Google Forms. Well, you have to go over to New. And Google Forms, if you go under the More, that's where you find it. So it's got drawings and maps and sites and a lot of other things that we will be using. Google has some amazing tools. Right now we're going to use the Google Forms tool. Once I go over to the Google Forms tool, I'm going to look at my assignment, and I'm collecting travel data for about a month. And so it calls for me to call this the first name, last name travel data. So I'm going to call it the Mr. Tush travel data. And I'm just going to do that and click return. And once I do, the interesting part is it actually throws it in here as a title. I could then go in and say, this is my personal travel data for the Unit 2 homework. So one of the things, just to remind me, okay, what was this form doing? Well, that's what it's doing. Now, do I need to collect my name? No, this is all about my data. So it's already assigned to me. I don't need to do that. But if you look at the assignment does tell you a few things that you do have to collect. So let's go ahead and build our questions. This menu over here allows you to add a question. You could do some titles and descriptions. You can add images and videos to this. You can add sections and make it jump around between sections. We're going to do some of the more simple forms tonight. And one of the things we're going to work on is the simple things that it's asking for. One of them is a date traveled. So we're going to call this date traveled. Now over here, it defaults to short answer most of the time. One of the things you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, if you can, collect a certain way so that you're going to get consistent data. You're going to be very happy you did this at the other end because that we are collecting the data the same way, which makes it easier to manipulate when you're mining the data at the end of the project. So I'm going to go over to short answer. I'm going to have it collect an actual date. And then the second trick is you're going to make this a required question. I'm actually going to make everything a required question. The reason I do that is it's easy for users, even you, to skip certain questions. And you're going to have a problem trying to mine your data for your project if you don't collect it consistently. So make it easy on yourself. I could duplicate this question. I'm just going to go over here and pick another one. And the next question it asks for is the time of travel. And guess what? I do have the ability to collect a time. So I'll do that and I'll make it required. Then it asks for a location. So I'm going to go over here, location, traveled to. And I'm going to let that be a short answer. And I'm going to put that in there. If I knew I was only going to go to 5 or 6 places, I could also include 5 or 6 different places that I always travel to. But I'm instead just going to do this. So this is my travel time to Bridgeport, or to, if I'm going to my family or if I'm going to wherever I'm headed, this is what it is. Now, location travel to the next thing is means of transportation. Means of transportation. Well, that I actually am going to use a multiple choice for. And why? Because I may want to do some kind of a pie chart at the end of it. So I'm going to say I can travel by car. Tab gets me to the next line. I may walk, tab. I may take the school bus. I usually don't, but students do. I may take the public bus. I may take a train. These are the most likely ways that I can travel. If I'm used to flying or hang gliding or anything like that, I might add it to that. And actually, you can add that to the form later on if you need to. You can add options to this even after you've started collecting. But I'll make it required, and that's my means of transportation. Now, the time I move, time in transit, time spent traveling. I am going to collect a short answer, but I'm also going to make sure that I'm always putting in a number so I don't get tempted in a moment of frustration to say forever. I actually want a number, so I'm going to go to response validation. And the number has to be, it's got a bunch of different options. Validation checks the answer to make sure that you're getting the right kind of answer. So you don't want somebody putting ABC in that blank if it's looking for a number. So I'm going to say it's a number. I don't mind if it's a partial number, but I'll say time spent traveling. I'll add the word in minutes. So I know this will be in an in minutes moment. This will always give me the answer in minutes, and I'll be looking for a number. Make it required. And then the distance traveled. So the distance traveled, I'll say in miles or tenths of miles. Example 1.2. So I'll tell them that the number has to be a number. And I'm going to actually leave the validation in place. So we're going to leave that there. And anything else I think might be interesting, that's fine. I will, for example, check to see the amount of time I spend travel alone or with others. Did you travel alone or with others? And I'm just going to leave myself two options. Alone, with others. And I'll make this an optional, or not an optional request. And that's that. Believe it or not, that's all you need to do to create your form. I'll show you how it works now, but your form is created. You cannot enter onto this form. This is how you make the form. It's the building screen. In order to make the form, you have to send it to someone. So you click this send button. The send form will come up. The default is actually to email this form to someone, and you can email this to yourself, that's fine. But what I suggest you do is you go to this link button, and you take this link, and it gives you this really long link, but I recommend you shorten the link and copy that link. So I'm going to copy that link. It actually says hit Command-C to copy because it knows I'm using a Macintosh. I'm just going to click copy. It's now on the clipboard. Now, I would, if I were in your shoes, mail that to myself as well. And you can do that. I will put the link in here and copy it. I will save this by starring it so that I'll always have a bookmark on that. But the other thing I'll do is I will email it to myself. So I'll always have it in the email. I can include the form in the email if I want to. But I want to have that link in the email because I want to always be able to, just from my phone, be able to pop that out. I'll click send. And you'll see in a minute this will pop up in here. But meantime, let's say I'm going to put in a sample piece of data. I'm going to put in that right now. So I'm going to put in 11.4, and I can tab right between it. And let's say I left at 4, I left at 5:05 p.m. and I traveled to Burlington. I took my car. I spent about 65 minutes. I traveled about 26 miles, and I was alone. I hit submit. I can actually go in and submit another response. Traveled on the same day, and it was on the 4th, and I traveled from 6:15 p.m. and I traveled to Manchester, and I took my car. We spent about 45 minutes traveling, and we had about 26 miles to go because I was with my daughter, but we didn't have traffic at that point, and so I put it in. Now, why did I just show you all of that? Because look back on the initial form. Here are my responses. I've got a couple of different dates, a couple of different times, where to travel, how I went. It gives me data on that. But here's the other thing that's cool. It's a little hard to notice, but you look here where you see this little cross that looks a little like the Excel symbol. That's what it is. You can create a new spreadsheet, and it will actually open all of this into a very convenient spreadsheet. And you don't have to know why that's important today, but it is a wonderful piece of data so that you can actually work with this later on. You will have that opportunity when you work on your project at the end of the month. Remember that we're looking for at least 40 responses on this. Any form can collect any number of responses, but for the sake of our data for this month, we're going to want to see you do 40 travel entries by the end of the month. Won't take that long. Thank you for watching and hope it helps. Good luck.